So for our final concept that's really going to challenge our client is this one. And this one is a little bit harder because it's not super obvious. We have this kind of knife blade that also kind of is in the shape of an S. So I've already vectorized this and tried out different orientations based on our sketch. So which one do we think would work? And I did the same typography process I did with the others, and I even adapted almost the same exact typography choices and presentation with these, since I've already feel like I've gone through that process with the other concepts. So I adapted some similar choices. So this was really, really quick to put together. I can already say, I've already talked about that one. I think that it's almost a little too playful. So just kind of getting rid of that one. As I talked about earlier, I think trying to get the C and the S all making up the blade, it no longer looks like a blade. It's not working. So I'm just going to eliminate that option. This one looks like a really high-end steakhouse, but it doesn't feel like a sushi place. So for that reason, I just have to eliminate it. And so now it's the orientation of the knife. If we have the knife lying down, you could still tell it makes up an S, but it's not super obvious. And then we have to sit there and tell the viewer about the story of how it also is shaped like an S. And there's some educational stuff we'd have to do to let them know that shape is in there. And we need something really easy to understand. I don't like the balance of this one. I think it's got a lot of this empty space on the top and the bottom. So it's a little clunky. So see you later. I've tried many ways to get this to work standing up, and I couldn't. And the only way I could get it to work standing up is if it was part of the name itself. So the name and the icon was together. This is a typography based logo. This one had the handle within the S, and I felt like it was harder to show what the S looked like when it was all, the handle was wrapped up in there too. So having a separate handle made it more obvious that it was a knife. So for that reason, I think maybe this one could work. I love the way the type is split here by the blade. I hate to see it go, but it's really about the concept and how viable it is. Doesn't matter how cool it looks. We can always do something else with it later on. So that's how I drilled down to this aspect, and let's make a duplicate. So once we get kind of a final approval from the client, and there's a couple things that are going to happen. They're going to come back and say, we found one, we love it, it's the second one or it's the first one. Let's just go with it unedited. But most likely they're going to come back and say, okay, this is not fitting right with my brand. I really love number one with tweaks. So there could be a total I love it. There could be a I love it with some tweaks or some modifications. And sadly, there could be a third response, and that is I'm not feeling any of them, which will not be the case most likely for you if you've gone through all of these different steps with me with your brand, because you would have done so much research, you would have done so much sketching, you would have done so much brainstorming that all of that presented with these, you are going to sell your concept so hard to the client with data and facts and research that they're going to have to say yes. If you were just to do some logo designs, like most graphic designers, they don't go through any of this process. They just create what they think looks great and they send 3 options. Yeah, that's a lot quicker, but the client's going to go back and say there's no story to these. There's no ethos. There's no origin. Where did you come up with the idea outside of just sketching? What is your reasoning behind your concept? Because you've gone through this process, and I know it's been tedious and hard and maybe a little bit boring at times, but if you've gone through this, I can guarantee you that third response that the client has where they say they don't like any of them is probably not going to happen to you. But it still can, because clients can just be awful sometimes, but most of them are going to go on board with you with your recommendation. It was a resounding choice of the first one, and it's because it's simple, and it's because we can break down the symbol, and this is what we're going to do next. We can break down the symbol and adapt it to different variations of the logo, so we can have a responsive logo that can scale down and work really good in mobile environments. We're going to have a detailed logo that can look really good on a menu with gold foil stamping or whatever we want to do. So we have this amazingly flexible logo that can become a really flexible brand. And we're going to get really deep into this with color selections and being able to get brand elements and packaging all this together. We haven't even talked about brand language and ad copy and all these different things that we're going to end up putting together. So this is just at the very beginning of the process, and I'm excited about where it's going to go.